This is part 3 of my beginning CNC series where I'm learning how to use the Shapeoko CNC. I made a small modification to my enclosure and placed a vacuum on a dedicated switch and added a USB port so I can plug into the CNC from the outside of the enclosure. In this video I make a spoilboard and show the mistakes that I made. I marked the holes where I need to drill through the spoilboard into the bottom board. After watching a lot of other YouTube videos on how other people made their spoilboard, I decided to use T-nuts instead of threaded inserts or T-tracks. This was the first mistake I made. I should have drilled a small hole using a 1/8 inch bit. The hole would then act as a pilot for my Forstner bit, preventing it from walking around on me. I found that if you bring the bit in at an angle and then slowly level it, it doesn't walk around as much. Okay, I messed up when I created this enclosure. I didn't think about the router coming in front of the CNC, so I can't close my doors. I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem, but it's a problem trying to create my wasteboard. This is the first attempt to drill the first hole in the spoilboard. That is not what I wanted. That's a little too big. It's supposed to just go straight down. Figured out what the problem was. That's my circle. I set the radius at 0.25. For some reason I was thinking diameter. My next couple attempts came out much better. This is something to note, and it may be only with the Carbide Create software, but using a 1/4 inch end mill, I could not create a 1/4 inch hole. I had to increase the diameter by 1/1000th of an inch. Well, I made a big mistake. So I'm supposed to cut these on the bottom of the wood. So I'm going to now flip this around and do it all over again. So I'm going to put an even layer across the board, and I'm going to use this white side surfacing 1-inch bit. It's cutting way too deep. Not really sure why it's cutting that deep. I spent about 5 or 6 hours trying to figure out why it was cutting so deep. I even had to learn a little bit about G-code. I went to ncviewer.com, I uploaded my NC file, looked at the G-code, spent maybe an hour or two just trying to understand what it actually means. And everything looked fine. All my settings in Carbide Create looked fine, so I still was a little stumped on why it was cutting too deep. I then remembered when I was setting my Z-axis, I hit the material and I heard the motor click. I didn't think much of it at the time. So what I did was I rehomed everything, I re-zeroed everything, and then everything started cutting just fine. So the lesson learned is when trying to set the axes and zero them out, if you go too far and you hear the motor click, the CNC needs to be rehomed. After I finally got it to resurface properly, I noticed there was a lip at the very front of the spoilboard. What was happening was the front center of the spoilboard was bowing out. So I took it all out, I put a bolt in it, and then I resurfaced it again. So my spoilboard is finally completed. It took a while to finish it. I thought it was a very straightforward project, and it probably is, but since I'm new at this, there was a lot of mistakes that I've made. And hopefully if someone's watching this video and they're just getting started with the Shapeoko, they don't make the same mistakes that I did. There's something I wanted to bring up. According to the Carbide 3D website, the cutting area of the Shapeoko XL is 33 inches wide by 16 inches, I guess, deep or height, the y-axis, and it's a little misleading. So the cutting area is actually about 14¼ inches. Unless you're going to cut in front of the frame, you would need something to probably support your item. I would assume most people don't cut in front of this frame. You can see that the router, it comes in front right there. This is not a deal breaker for me, and I'm very happy with the machine, but it is something you should know. So now that my Spoilboard is created, the next thing I need is a bunch of clamps, and I'm going to cover that in my next video.